electricity went out because of the storm, the movie I chose is 2005's White Noise. This film being so bad doesn't even make any sense to me. Tapes?
Not another reviewer.
Yes, another reviewer. The storm is still raging outside, but with the power back on, you get to see my spooky decorations. Plus, I was able to hook up an old camera, so that I can watch these tapes and show them to you at the same time. They're all conveniently numbered, so let's go ahead and watch. Amnesia: The Dark Descent, a 2010 release from Swedish developer Frictional Games, known for the Penumbra series. This should be interesting, since I've never played this game, but I love the survival horror genre. In this game, you play as Daniel. Not much is known about him early in the game, being he seems to be in a hazy state as he's making his way through the Prussian Brennenburg Castle. All he can recollect is his name, that something called the Shadow is hunting him, that he lives in London in Mayfair, and that he must stop someone before passing out. Once he wakes up, you take control of him. Holy shit! Was that me? The story of this game is fairly simple. Find your way through Brennenburg Castle, where you will discover diary pages of Daniel's that clue him in on why he's here, why he can't remember anything, and what he has to do. Most of the game's exposition is done through flashback, as Daniel was very much involved in the events that led up to the game himself. I don't want to reveal much more than that, since this game relies heavily on ambiance and discovery, and it's actually suggested you play this game in the dark with headphones on to get the full effect. I'm starting to remember. Where's tape 3? Huh. Here it is. Gameplay is from a first-person perspective. The tasks ahead of you are making your way through maze-like hallways, finding and preserving items such as tinder boxes and jars of oil, solving puzzles, first-person platforming, which in this case really isn't that bad as there's very little of it, and staying hidden from the gatherers. The gatherers are the monsters you encounter in the game, and you have no means of fighting back, driving home the point of how utterly defenseless your character is and why he's so afraid. First-person platforming? I hate first-person platforming! It's pretty easy to get yourself turned around in the hallways if you're not paying attention to where you're going. That's very dangerous if you encounter a monster and you don't know where you are, because then you won't know where to hide. Puzzle solving is generally easy, but there is one that's very odd. You have to cross pipes that are on the other side of the room, but you can't really rotate the pipes. They just snap to the wall however they want, so you just kind of have to pull them out and move them around until you get the progress made flash that restores your sanity. Ooh, a sanity meter. I can dig that. From your inventory screen, you can see the current state of your health, sanity, what items you have, obviously because it's your inventory, how many tinder boxes you have, how much oil you currently have in your lantern, and access your journal. Your health is obviously fairly shallow, as 2 hits from a monster will kill you. You can also be harmed by falling large distances and the red organic material that appears to grow behind you when you finish tasks in certain areas in the castle. Your sanity decreases when you're in the dark for prolonged periods of time, witness shocking events, or see monsters. If Daniel's sanity gets too low, he'll start to experience visual and auditory hallucinations, and eventually pass out. This makes him very susceptible to monster attack, but upon waking, his sanity will recover slightly. Standing near light sources and making progress in the story by completing puzzles will recover his sanity. There are 4 different states of sanity, which are crystal clear and a slight headache, of which Daniel suffers no ill effects. then head is pounding and hands are shaking, and ... which from this point I'll refer to as the red, since the brain indicator flashes red in this state, which causes Daniel to hallucinate and make him increasingly harder to control. Generally, if you depend on standing and light sources to restore your sanity, it can only increase from the red to head is pounding and hands are shaking, and it takes a fairly long time. So make sure there are no monsters around when doing this. You know, I think I was starting to notice a slight headache. Wait, why am I doing this? Didn't they have aspirin during the time this game takes place in? It appears aspirin wasn't invented until almost 6 decades after this game takes place. Oh, the marvels of modern medicine. Stupid child-proof. Along with the items necessary for puzzles, there are some helpful items like tinder boxes and jars of oil that I mentioned earlier, as well as laudanum. Tinder boxes are single-use items that you can use to light candles, torches, and fireplaces to light up areas and attempt to preserve your oil. They aren't very effective in my opinion, as the lit devices don't offer very much light, but they do work in a pinch as you don't have to see something to light it up. Just know its general location if you run out of oil at any time. Oil is far more rare. You use it to fuel a lantern that you find early on in the game. Along with the jars of oil, you find oil containers with varying amounts of it that refill your supply. The lantern is the be-all, end-all of light sources in this game, and if you're careful and don't get lost too often, you can keep a steady supply of oil throughout. Just be sure to put it down when monsters are around, as it will make you easier to spot. Don't hold up a bright fucking beacon when monsters are hunting you. Great advice. Me? Oh. Laudanum is your health restorative in the game. It can increase your health 1 level. It's great to have if you manage to survive a monster attack, which though very rare, can happen. Your journal allows you to access notes, diaries, and mementos. Notes and diary entries can give information on upcoming puzzles or just offer backstory, or information about surroundings of the game. Mementos are just notes that Daniel writes down that work as objectives or hints on how to progress in the game, and it's indicated that Daniel has taken down a memento when the sound of a pencil or pen scratching on paper is heard. Why haven't I seen any monsters yet? I was even attacked by one and I didn't even see it! There are 3 different types of monsters in this game: the grunt, the brute, and the cairn. There's not really too much of a difference in how the monsters behave once they see Daniel. They chase him quickly and attack until they either lose sight of him or he dies. The grunts are disfigured humanoids that seem to have swaths of flesh covering their bodies, and attack with blades replacing the fingers on their left hand that kill Daniel in 2 hits. They move fairly slowly and are very inept at finding Daniel when he is hiding. Brutes appear to have their heads sliced in half, with body parts of different sizes attached to their torso, and a metal rod with a large blade attached to their left arm that can kill Daniel instantly. They move faster than Daniel and are better at finding him than the grunts. Finally, there are the cairns. These beasts are the worst, most intense creatures in the game, and fortunately you only encounter them a few times. They would be completely invisible if it wasn't for the fact that they dwelled in water and the splashes of their footsteps gave away their position. They're easily distracted by throwing objects in the water away from you or flesh for them to eat. They can only attack you while you're in the water, and 2 hits from them will kill you. That sounds awful. I really hope I don't end up in a stressful situation with that last one. Now it's time for...
How to do everything completely wrong and still win.
With Not Another Reviewer. See, there's a part in the game called the Cellar Archives, where as soon as you enter, Daniel blacks out. Then upon opening his eyes, he notices the place is now flooded, and he is accompanied by a Kyrk that he must avoid by jumping from crate to crate and toss things into the water away from it. I thought what the death hint was telling me when it said stay out of the water was that I needed to go into the first room via jumping on the crates, throw a book into the water to distract the monster, pull the lever, and platform into another room where I'm supposed to throw another item to distract the creature again, then platform to the end of the hall where the gate is that the lever activates. Unfortunately, the gate is timed, and even after going through this scenario so many times that I could perfectly make it from the starting area to the gate with no mistakes, the gate is still closed when I get there. So, going against my better instincts and what the game has taught me, I decided the best idea was to toss a book into the water, pull the lever, and run like the Kieran was directly in my pants to get to the gate on time. This strategy was the one that actually worked. Is it over? Did I make it? Fortunately, the gate slams shut behind you, leaving the creature in the previous room, but that only means that the Kieran that is in this room gets you all to himself. This time, you're apparently supposed to lure the Kieran away with limbs near the door, and create a moving bridge as you make your way across the room to a valve, to open the gate on the other end. Sadly, the Kieran can knock the crate out from under you, causing you to fall into the water and get attacked. Not only that, but if you do manage to open the gate and get through it, the door is locked, so you have to screw around with an item on a shelf by the door to get out, giving the monster plenty of time to kill you. So, I decided after many failed attempts to get out of this room, I was going to do something crazy and reckless, very similar to what I did in the previous room. I was going to kill the beast. Oh, great idea, me! In a game where I said myself, that the only way to deal with the monsters are to hide as it gives you no means to fight back, my dumbass is going to try to kill something invisible! You just go ahead and you do that, you stupid you! Upon entering, I noticed some fairly large barrels in the corner, so I lured the monster away from that corner with flesh, then made my way over to the barrels. Grabbing one, I tossed it at the beast and managed to kill it. How? This allowed me to go to the valve and slide into the next room. Unfortunately, this caused another Kieran to start breaking down the door. I decided the best way to take care of this problem was via the same method. Unfortunately, I couldn't kill this one, only stun it momentarily. But it was enough for me to get out, get into the next room, find the Hallow Needle, and move on to the part where you just run like hell before the final Kieran can catch you. That concludes
How to do everything completely wrong and still win.
I killed something in Amnesia: The Dark Descent. That's not I am badass! Take that, PewDiePie! This game's pretty good. It creates a really tense atmosphere where you're just constantly stressed about keeping your sanity levels up, and that's made even more difficult by the fact that random interactive bits of the game can push your sanity into the red immediately, due to the graphic nature of some of the memories you can have. At first, resources seem plentiful, but there are a few bits, only a few mind you, where I was out of oil and low on tinderboxes, but my supplies seemed to replenish once I found my way out of the area. Monster encounters are always scripted, so being prepared for them ahead of time is generally easy. Every time you find a room you can hide in, keep a mental note of it so you can return later in case you do run into something. This should have been made smoother, as it seems that getting into doors and cabinets normally is a breeze, but doing so in a hurry is somehow harder. I'm not really even sure how. The mechanic where you have to pull the door open or closed with a mouse isn't even a factor, as that becomes fairly easy to control pretty quickly. I also had an issue with the monster script, where your first encounter with a monster is supposed to be visual only, so you can wait in a dark corner and it will simply vanish, but it won't vanish until a specific game hint shows up on top of your screen. But you can look right at the monster and wait in the hiding place for, I guess, forever, without it vanishing because you weren't standing in just the right spot or looking at it in just the right way to make sure the hint text appears. Just waiting in the dark, going back and forth between the red and head pounding while you're passing out with no light, all while waiting for this harmless scripted monster to go away. Jesus, this game seems relentless! If you die to one of the monsters, you respawn by the door of the room you died in, but everything you moved or activated in the room is still how you left it before you died, so you can just find where you were and continue where you left off. I'm just guessing here, but there's one feature or glitch or something that works in your favor. If you repeatedly die to the same monster, the monster disappears and you can freely pass. It's actually kind of odd because even though the monster is gone and doesn't seem to be coming from anywhere, I was still stressed out because I was waiting for him to come after me unexpectedly, like he just moved on to another area even though he wasn't where he was when he killed me. I say this could be a glitch because it seemed to happen randomly, as it would happen after dying once to one monster or 3 times to another. Either way, I'm not going to question it, as it was how I made it through a particularly stealthy part of the game, which happens to be one of the things I'm most awful at. I kinda like this idea, as that proves that this game was intended to be an experience and not just something to race to the finish line. It gives you tiny rewards for experiencing death. Well, I stand corrected. All around, it's a game worth playing. The environment is tense and frightening, the visuals can be downright disturbing, as well as beautiful at times. The music lends to the atmosphere depending on if you're running from something or if you've made a crucial discovery for the story. The monsters look a little goofy, but it's more what happens to your character just seeing the monsters and what effect it has on gameplay, which I think is very well done. The controls are okay, I wouldn't say they're perfect. Rotating your mouse to rotate valves doesn't always work as intended, but pulling doors and chests open by pushing the mouse forward or pulling it back works pretty well. In the story, well, kind of droning at times, as there are areas where every step you take has another flashback associated with it, is interesting enough. There are other elements to the game that I neglected to mention, but I did so to motivate you to get a copy for yourself and give it a playthrough. This game is relatively short. Your first time will probably take roughly 8 to 10 hours. Unfortunately, because of how linear the gameplay is, it doesn't have very much to offer by way of replayability other than having 3 different endings. That seems to wrap it up nicely, but there's still one tape left. It wasn't in a case, so it wasn't numbered like the others. I guess we should see what's on it.